I made a commitment to myself that whenever I want to buy a book, I don't look at the price. I just hit purchase. It's like, if I'm going to, it should never be like, well, I bought 3 books last time and I didn't read one of them, so I should really read that one before I buy the next. If you think you should buy a book, buy it. Like, the opportunity cost of not buying it is so much higher than buying it and not reading it. So I really believe that books are the most valuable tool we have to develop ourselves. That's one of the things that I really is a guiding principle for myself. It's so ironic because I honestly don't think I ever read, this is an honest truth, I don't think I ever read a full book through all of high school.
We are here because we know the outcomes in our lives are within our control. That taking absolute ownership of how we eat, sleep, train, think, and connect with each other is how we'll optimize our health and happiness. That chasing excellence is how we grab hold of what is possible. Our mission is to live on the run, always chasing, never stopping. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Chasing Excellence. How are you, Ben?
I'm doing good. Thank you, Patrick.
Today we are going to return to a relatively new format of ours called the 3x3, which is our way of kind of diving into a handful of different subjects that maybe don't warrant a full episode, but still kind of fun to talk about. And so 3x3 is 3 thoughts on 3 things.
Cool.
Right? So today we are going to dive into a couple things. 3 things worth spending your money on, 3 excuses you need to stop having, and 3 exercises to do while traveling. So we'll go into the first one first. 3 things worth spending your money on.
Okay, so the first one, so we could go anything, right? So like super big to super small. This is like, so maybe we'll go kind of across a gamut here. The first one I would say is nutrition. So you should, the excuse to eating healthy should never be, I can't afford it, I don't have the money. You have to like make certain choices in your life, like draw really bright lines, and this is what I do. And that's the place you should not skimp. Now, I'm not saying you have to go to Whole Foods and you have to buy organic. That's one side of it. Yep. And you could get like well-sourced foods that is wild caught. And as you go up, it's harder to do those things. It's harder to raise them. It's harder to ship it. It's harder to, the sourcing gets more and more difficult. So the price goes up.
Right.
I really believe that's an area that people should not be skimping on. People should be willing to spend their money to eat well. And here's the big reason is if it's the short-term versus long-term. Do you want to suffer now or suffer later? Well, I believe that's worth suffering now a little bit to spend an extra 15% on your food bill. And I'm not talking about going out and eating. I'm not saying spend money at a fancy restaurant, but I'm saying like, for your lunches and for your dinners, for your regular thing, spend the extra money on good fruits and vegetables and good produce that's cleanly sourced. If you spend that extra 15% now, it's going to save you a ton, both in monetary expenses later on in your life, but even more so, the opportunity cost of it's going to come from you potentially being in a hospital bed or shortened years off of your life. I just think that's such a no-brainer to invest now to reap the benefits later.
Agreed. Yeah, even just the change from a relatively processed diet into just produce and meat is a little bit more expensive. And so I say that to just say, if that's where you are, just going, you don't even have to go to the organic, locally sourced, et cetera, to get a little bit better.
Right.
Then the next,
I mean, here's the spectrum. Instead of going to fast food at McDonald's and getting the value meal for $6.99, you get all the calories you could possibly have. Let's try to like spend money at just go shopping and just go grocery shopping, right? Yeah. And the next level is, okay, from there, instead of getting the kind of crappy stuff at the grocery store, let's get the better stuff at the grocery store. And then once you get to the good stuff, now I'm eating real foods, then let's go as high to where we're kind of like sourcing really well and all the rest.
Got it. Okay, first thing we're spending money on is good, healthy food. What's number 2? I
would say the second one is, and this might be, I'll do it both ways. Your family. If you don't have a family, yourself. Okay. So if you have a family, let's just kind of talk about that one. And what I mean by that is, I think that creating good family experiences is really beneficial for everybody. I came across this thing the other day, which said essentially the relationship you have with your parents is almost the number one correlate to your mental well-being. If you don't have a good relationship with your parents, you struggle in a lot of different areas of your life. So flip it, right? I'm a parent.
Yep.
I want to give my kids the best that they possibly can. I'm not saying like the newest, fanciest bike. I'm saying like a life of fulfillment and happiness and balance and success and being a good woman and a good man when they grow up.
Yep.
Well, the best thing I can do there is investing into things that's going to give them a better relationship with me. So some things that we do, not that we're the model to follow, but things like we stretch hard to be able to go skiing with our kids on the weekends. We stretch hard to be able to rent a house on Cape Cod for the month of July. Like those are really expensive. Those are major expenses that we put towards this. We're not rolling in it.
Yeah.
But that's a place that we feel like is a really valuable place for us. Another place, which is, I don't think we should have this be the cost, should be the choice, is should Bodhi join a wrestling program? Like if the answer is yes or no, it should not be, well, it's doing the math. It breaks down to $27 an hour per session. And if he does this other program, it's like, give your kids the best opportunities they can there. Now, I'm not saying overbook them. We should definitely do another podcast on the parenting thing. But I'm not saying overbook them because I do not believe in that. But I'm saying if you decide that your kid should be in a program, don't let money be the deciding factor there. So anything from a trip with your family to a Airbnb to a actual rental for a season to regular ski trips to their programs that they're involved in, a basketball program, a wrestling program, a gymnastics program, right to basically, the kind of the generic one, but their education. I believe the school system's broken, but I also do believe that you pay for what, in a lot of instances, you get what you pay for. And the private school education is, there's a lot of benefits to it for certain kids. And if you feel like that's a place, that might be a place worth spending your money.
Just out of curiosity, how far in advance, or like where do you and Heather start having that conversation about where those kind of buckets are, for lack of a better term, of, do you do it at the beginning of every year and say, here's where we're going to allocate the, X resources?
Definitely not.
Or is it like kind of whim?
Yeah, absolutely not.
Can we want to do this? Can we do it?
Let me take that back. For the bigger bucket items, like we are going to I've been working up to the opportunity to be able to get a place in the mountains for the winter. Like I've been working up to, we're not even there yet. I thought this year winter was going to be it, but I know there's a certain time that I'll be able to do that. This year, we're kind of doing it in between. We've rented the same house for about 6 weekends. So we're kind of getting there, but financially we're not there yet. The July rental at the beach, like that took us, we only started that 3 years ago. So when we were, really young parents, we did not do that. We were not ready. But those big ticket items, that's kind of on the yearly thing. The smaller ones are like, we should sacrifice elsewhere to make sure our kids can get in certain programs. And those are kind of like off the cuff type things.
Got it. Okay. Good nutrition, good experiences. What's number 3?
I think it's a really small one, but it's really meaningful. And this is books. I made a commitment to myself that whenever I want to buy a book, I don't look at the price. I just hit purchase. It's like, if I'm going to, it should never be like, well, I bought 3 books last time and I didn't read one of them. So I should really read that one before I buy the next. If you think you should buy a book, buy it. Like the opportunity cost of not buying it is so much higher than buying it and not reading it. So I really believe that books are the most valuable tool we have to develop ourselves. That's one of the things that I really is a guiding principle for myself. It's so ironic because I honestly don't think I ever read, this is an honest truth, I don't think I ever read a full book through all of high school. Never. And when I say a full book, I don't know if I read the first 2 or 3 chapters of a book. I read a lot of Cliff Notes. But I hated reading. Hated reading. Because I was reading things I was so uninterested in. So I think that spending money on self-development, okay, that's such a big bucket. I think like nail it, like books, like go and buy books. And so to the point where what I'll do is I'll buy an audiobook and I'll buy the book at the same time. Because I want both of them. I want the opportunity, I want to make it as easy as possible for myself to make this thing happen. And I'll do both at the same time. I'll read some if I'm on a plane, I don't have Wi-Fi, and then I'll listen to it in the car. And that's how you can kind of plow through a bunch in a month.
Out of curiosity, obviously hypothetical, but if you were presented with some of the books that you found valuable, the ones that we've talked about a lot of, 7 Habits and Carnegie and a few others, if somebody had put those in front of you in high school, do you think you would have responded to it, or do you think you needed
no, definitely
the
not
20 plus
no,
years?
I hated reading.
Yeah, okay, so it wasn't this.
It wasn't that.
It was probably the
well,
books, but
you know what? That's interesting because when I found a book, the first book I think I ever read on my own, I believe, was Into Thin Air, John Krakauer, about the catastrophe on Everest. And when I read that, it was like captivating.
Yeah.
It's hard not to. And I was like, like this is it's really cool. So then I read Into the Wild, the guy that went to Alaska, same author. And I read another fiction book, which I can't remember what it was. So that's I don't know the answer to that. Yeah. In high school, if I was given books that I liked, I don't know. I think I was still just such a punk and I hated anything to do with school that I probably would have just pushed it off and never given it a chance.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of think about that in the same way that I think about CrossFit, and that I wish this was around when we were in high school, but at the same time, I don't know that it would have sunk in. I don't know that life would have, I would have had enough life in me to have picked up 7 Habits, for example, and gotten anything out of it.
No, I definitely would not have out of those things. Yeah. That happened. When those happened was when I became a coach. Here's what, those books became really powerful. So I read The E-Myth, I read How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I read 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. Those were the first 3 books I read right after I opened up my business. Yeah. So when I was started personal training, I didn't read all these books. And when I opened up CrossFit, that's when I started I'm going to do this. This is for real. Yeah. I want to start to invest in myself as a professional. And I read them in the way that I want to be able to present it back to other people. Yep. And it was to make me a better coach and be able to talk to other people about these different habits. Yeah. And then I was able to, I knew even from the very beginning, I wanted to coach other people on how to run their businesses. So I was reading those books, the E-Myth, and when I was reading How to Win Friends, I was using those in terms of the way I could use it to coach other people.
Cool. Yeah.
And that kind of it's coming in so it can go back out. Right. It's not just going into this empty thing to fill it up.
Context matters a lot.
It mattered a ton. Yeah.
Totally.
It helped make it real. And if I didn't understand it, why am I doing this?
Right. Totally. Okay. So those are the 3 things we're spending money on. Next category, 3 excuses you need to stop having. And by you, I don't mean you, but we need to stop having.
So for anybody, right? So there's probably a lot that we could choose from. I would say that the biggest one that I hear most frequently, and it's not inside our walls, but it's outside our walls, is time. I don't have the time. You should try, like you just said, you should try CrossFit. You should read, whatever it is. Oh, I would love to. I just don't have the time. Yeah. It's so cliche at this point. You don't have any more time than me. I don't have any more time than you. Yep. And Elon Musk and Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and Catherine David's daughter and Michael Phelps, we all have the same time. It's not a time issue. It's what you're choosing to do with your time. So I get it. You are super busy at work. And because of that, you don't have the extra time to work out. That's not because you don't have the time. It's because you're choosing. This is a choice. Nobody is making you. No, I have a boss. I have this project to do. Choice. You're choosing to work for that boss. You're choosing to take on that project. You don't have to do those things. When you eliminate that, it changes the ballgame. You are choosing where you're spending your time. And I love to, I just can't. Like I used this with Brooke Wells last week. We were doing a muscle up drill and she got off the rings and said, I can't do it that way. I said, no, we don't use that word. Instead say, I won't. Mm-hmm. She goes, well, I would just never say that. I would never turn around and say to you, I won't do it that way.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So you're saying you can, but you're choosing not to. And she got up on the rings and did it the other way. So if you take away the can't and turn it into a won't and realize that everything you're doing from every minute, every second, it's a choice of where you're spending your time, then it reframes things. Now it's a matter of priorities.
Yep. And responsibility. Once you take it.
For sure.
Okay. That's the first excuse. Number 2.
I'm too ... You should do CrossFit. I would love to. I'm too old. Yep. I'm too big. I'm too tall. I'm too young. I'm too short. I'm too skinny. Like whatever. Yep. The I'm too. Like there is no prerequisite for anything that says you should start a business. I would, but I'm the time thing. I'm too busy.
Right.
I don't have the experience. Like I don't, the self-limiting I'm too, and putting yourself into a bucket and saying, this is why I can't do these things. Like there's every single category has a exception and you can also be the exception. I get it. CrossFit Games athletes are, the guys are between 5'7" and 5'11". If you're 6'3", you're going to struggle. Mm-hmm. And Brian Fikowski's there. Mm-hmm. Like, I get it. If you are 100 and if you're a guy and you're under 150 pounds, you're going to struggle. Chris Spieler did it. Like everybody's got these, you can be that exception as well. I get it that you don't fit the bell curve and you're on the outside, but don't use that as an excuse why you can't. You're again making the choice, and it's an easy thing to latch onto. It's not about talent. It's not about DNA. It's not about genetics. It's not about even the opportunities you had growing up. You are making the excuse for the reason you can't do that. I'm too ... has got to go.
Not enough time. I'm too, etc. Number 3.
I'll do it later. Right. Which is like, I love the saying. We actually have this written in our kitchen on the chalkboard. It's up there. It's all the time. We have our family values posted on the chalkboard, and we have this one quote, which is from Einstein. It says, "If you don't have the time to do it now, when will you have time to do it later?" Mm-hmm. So, I'm sorry. If you don't have the time to do it right now, when will you have time to do it later? So the idea behind that is like just do it. Just start, just go and do it well, because you're not going to have time to do it again later on. Everyone says like, it's that should thing, right? I should start a diet. I should call my mom. I should go to the gym. Well, what you're implicitly saying is that I'm not going to right now. I know I should, but I'll probably do this thing later. Yeah. Every diet starts on a Monday, right? Yeah. And no one's willing to just kind of like do it right now. Like just start and go. I'm thinking about starting a business. I'm thinking about writing a book. I'm thinking about training for a marathon. Like, how much thinking gets you? Thinking is actually a negative, because your body gets a dopamine response from actually thinking about it. It makes you feel good. That's why we like talking about our goals. Mm-hmm. Like, dude, I'm going to make $1 million. Like, I'm going to run a marathon. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to look so good at my wedding. And you actually feel, I'm actually feeling good saying these things right now. You actually feel good just saying it. And that gives you a little dopamine hit. And because of that, you're able to push things back even farther. You have to realize that talking is cheap. I can't hear what you're saying because your actions speak so loudly. If you want to do any of those things, you got to start. And you got to start right now. Not like, I'll do it after, I'll do it when, now.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of something of that I've heard Tony Robbins talk about, which is when you make a decision, the first thing you need to do is take massive action towards that decision to cement it in your mind as something that you're doing.
What I would caveat that though with take action, because what people do is then they go massive action. Yep. Now I have to okay, I'm going to write a book. So what I got to do is I got to write the first chapter. Yeah, I got to quit my job. I quit my job and write the first chapter. No, it's like the first thing is open up a Word document.
Yep.
Like open up Google Docs and type in by Patrick Cummings.
Right.
And then just chapter 1.
Right.
And just sit down and stare at that screen.
Totally. Yeah. Okay. Our third thing, 3 exercises to do whilst traveling.
Okay. So this, I just traveled. Mm-hmm. I just went to, we did a company retreat for 2 or 3 days in Newport, Rhode Island. Stayed at this beautiful house. And we did not go to the gym. We went there. The comp train business people went down there. So this is really relevant. We went down there, and the first day we did a workout, and the workout was run 200 meters, do 5 burpees. Run 200 meters, do 10 burpees. Run 200 meters, do 15 burpees. And the burpees went up 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Mm-hmm. Those would be my first 2 movements, run and burpee. You can do it as long as you can run.
So you got the space for it.
Yeah. So I get it. Like if you're traveling in your jail cell, like it might be tough to choose that.
But lots of burpees though.
Yeah, but you can do lots of burpees. I would say run and burpee is just such a cool, easy, no brainer. You also need a lot of warm up, which is awesome. Like for all these workouts that we did 2 workouts. That was the first. There's no warm up needed for that. Like go and run 200 meters and do 5 slow burpees. Yep. By the time you get through that second round, you've done 10 slow burpees, you're good to go. Yep. Like that's just love that, right? So that'd be my first 2 movements. The next workout we did the next day was run. We ran again. And this one we ran 200 meters. And but it was the second movement. The first movement we did was jumping lunges. Yeah. So put your right foot forward, left, like you're going to go into a lunge, have your left knee kiss the ground, jump up in the air and switch your feet in midair, land on the other one, kiss the back knee, jump up. And every time you jump is a rep. Yep. So what we did for this one was where that last one was like a mid 20-minute-ish workout. For this one, and kind of just like sloggy, grindy, right? No one's sprinting through, hundreds of burpees or 100 plus burpees. What we did for this one was work rest. So it was 16 jump lunges, 200 meter run, rest a minute. Mm-hmm. And we did that for 10 rounds. So just made it way more kind of higher intensity. The runs pace picked up a ton. Yep. And the jump lunges are metabolic. It's tempting to put air squats in there because it's probably a more functional movement, getting yourself below parallel. But again, even an air squat, I got to warm up for a little bit. And if I'm traveling, I don't have tons of time. This lunge thing, like I can just start. Yeah. I can just go.
Yeah, I've done many jumping lunges in hotel
rooms. And they're more metabolic then and more dynamic. So those would be my 3 movements. It would be burpees, jumping lunges, and running. Yep. I'm going to add a asterisk to that, which is if you have access to a pull-up bar, I would do Cindy. And there's your 3 movements. Yep. I would do variations of Cindy. Cindy and Chelsea, essentially Murph, they're all the same kind of thing. Yep. It is 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 air squats. Rinse, wash, repeat that in as many different forms and fashions as you want to do. This is my go-to workout. I did it this week. I do that with running. It's always my go-to if I don't have time. I couldn't do the class workout. I still came in at my 6:30 time like I always do, but I had to do work. So I had to be done by 7. The class doesn't even start their workout because they're doing all their technique stuff. I came in and I did, the way I did it was 5, 10, 15 of pull, push, squat. And then I did 6, 12, 18, and it went up by that. Then I did 7, 14, 21, went all the way up until I got to 10, 20, and 30. And it's great. And then I did a run by in and run by out of 2 minutes on either end, like, 500, 600 meters, something like that. So Cindy is just such a cool because it's upper body push, it's upper body pull, and a squat. Like you are really kind of getting it all. Yep. Again, you don't need, if you're not kipping, which I did these as strict, you're kind of getting it all. So I love that combination of run, Cindy, run, Cindy. That's if it's a great warm up anyway. It's a great workout. You can mix and mash it in so many different forms and fashions.
Just because we're talking about it, a lot of times when I'm traveling or when folks travel, they do, especially if they're in a hotel, they're able to get access to some dumbbells.
Yeah.
Where, given all what you just said, where would you maybe alter it, change it, add some dumbbells in there? If you like, what are some good movements for folks?
Okay.
Assuming, if they have access to it.
So again, if you have access to a hotel gym and dumbbells, like kind of like the sky's the limit, like grab any workout off of any affiliate page and morph it for dumbbells, right? Like you can kind of get it all in there. You have access to pull-up bar, you can jump on benches, you can use dumbbells for any barbell movement, like cool. But again, I like this idea of, or at least the way I think of travel WODs is I'm limited for time.
Yep.
Like either I'm on vacation with my family, so I'm not going to spend an hour and a half in a gym plus 15 minutes travel back and forth. I might be able to get into the hotel gym before my morning meetings and something really quick. So not a lot of warm up. So I need to use the workout as the warm up. And what I'll do there is grab, this is when I go to a hotel gym, this is kind of my default. Grab the 5-pound dumbbells, the lightest ones you have. Do 5 dumbbell deadlifts, do 5 hang power cleans with the dumbbell, do 5 push press or strict press. Put them down, pick up the 10s, rinse, wash, repeat. 5 deadlifts, 5 hang power cleans. You can put 5 front squats in there and 5 push press and kind of go through that little progression. And you can getting warmed up as you're going. By the time you get to the 15s, the 20s, and 25s, you're feeling good. 5 deads, 5 hang power cleans, 5 front squats, 5 push presses. And as you work through the dumbbell rack, usually it goes up to 50 pounds.
Yeah.
And by the time you're at the 50s, you're good. And you can kind of do this as like, not for time, but for time. Like if you want to like just start off super slow. And then as you get into it, like all of a sudden, like the hardest thing is just starting. So make the starting thing the easiest thing and kind of get into it. I like that dumbbell complex thing. I'll also use dumbbells and do step back lunges with them. So maybe it becomes 6 step back lunges, 3 each side, and 6 push press.
Got it.
And just kind of like climb up in the weights.
All right. So those were 3 things worth spending your money on, 3 excuses you need to stop having, and 3 exercises to do while you're traveling. Thank you.
You got it.
See everybody next week. You can get every episode of Chasing Excellence wherever you listen to your podcasts or on YouTube. Until next time, thank you for listening.